Hello everyone! In this video we're going to pair the delegation design pattern with the idea of extending class functionality by using composition instead of inheritance. We're going to apply these two ideas in a simple Java project to achieve something similar to multiple inheritance, since Java does not support extending more than one parent class. We're going to build a simple hierarchy related to a university campus where we will assume that students will be able to enroll in courses and lecturers will be able to upload course materials to some sort of an online portal. First, I'll create some campus entities that we can work with. I'll create a new package for this. And we'll start with a base student type. And the student will have an ID. Actually, this is going to be an abstract class. And an abstract student type, because we're going to model two types of students, graduate students and undergraduate students. We're going to have a constructor with the ID and a getter for the ID. And finally, we're going to have a method that allows students to enroll in a course. And for now, we're just going to print some message. And the type of the student. And the course ID. Alright, so this is our base abstract student, and we're going to have two implementations of it. One for a graduate student. We're going to provide the student type. And we need to provide a constructor. And one more for the undergraduate student case. And implement the constructor. Alright, so this covers our student types, and now we can move on to the lecturer type. I'll create a lecturer class for this. And again, the lecturer will have an ID with a constructor for that ID and a getter for that ID. And the lecturers will be able to upload lecture content for a particular course. But to upload content, first we need a class for that content, so I'm going to create a new class and call it lecture, and actually it's going to be a record, and it's going to contain a title and some content. Okay, going back to the lecture, we can upload lecture content. For now, we're just going to print a message. Alright, so now we can test that this works. I'm going to go to our main class and create some students and a lecturer. For now, I'm going to create one undergrad. That's going to have an entity ID. Each new campus entity will have an increasing ID count. So I'm going to create a graduate student as well. And to make sure that these work, I'm going to use the undergraduate student to enroll in a course. In this case, we'll enroll in course 1, and also the graduate student will enroll in course 2. If I run this class, we should see some logs. There they are. Student 1, who is, oops, this one should be a graduate student. Okay, so student 1, who is another undergraduate student, enrolled in course 1, and the graduate student enrolled in course 2. Okay, and we can check that lecturers can also upload content. And again, we're going to increment the entity ID. We're going to assume that students and lecturers share the same auto-increment entity ID generator. So in this case, we're gonna double check that the lecturer can upload content to course 3, and let's say this is a new lecture. And if we run this, we should see that the lecturer with an ID of 3 uploaded content to course 3 with, this is title 1. Okay, so since there are many more students than lecturers aren't able to grade lab assignments in time. As a result, they need the help of tutors, who are also students, further along down the education track. And this presents a challenge because a tutor is at the same time a lecturer and a student. And we can't have multiple inheritance in Java, so we need to solve this somehow, and composition would allow us to do that. So I'm going to create a new class, tutor. In order to solve that, I'm going to create a couple of interfaces. I'm going to create a new package for them and call the package entity types. And here we're going to have a campus entity interface, which will have a single abstract method called getID. Okay. We're also going to have a type for a teacher. I'm just going to call this staff. It's going to extend the campus entity type, and it's going to have a single method that has the same signature as the uploading method. And finally, we need a type for our learner. Again, it's going to extend the campus member, and it's going to have a single method, enroll in course. So at this point, we can do some refactoring and make sure that the base student actually implements the learner interface. So the getID method is now being overridden, as well as the enroll in course method. And our lecturer is going to implement the staff interface. In this case, again, the getID method is going to be overridden, and the uploading of a lecture content also is going to be overridden. And now our tutor can implement both the staff and the learner interfaces. And since the tutor is both a student and a teacher in some sense, we're going to have fields inside the tutor that correspond to their teaching roles and learner roles. So we're going to have a constructor here that takes in a staff instance and a learner instance, and we need to implement all unimplemented methods. And since tutors are more students than teachers, we're going to return the ID of the learner field here. And we're going to delegate the enrollment in course to the learner field as well. And finally, we're going to delegate the uploading of lecture content to the staff interface. So at this point, we have an entity that is both a teacher and a learner, and we accomplish this using composition of class fields. So what have we built so far? Every entity in this system contains an ID, so at the top of our hierarchy we have an interface with a single method returning an integer ID. This interface is being extended by a staff interface responsible for uploading lecture content and also a learner interface responsible for enrolling in courses. The staff interface is implemented by a concrete lecturer class. It contains an ID field which is returned when the getID method of the campus entity interface is called. The learner interface is implemented by an abstract-based student class, which also has an ID and provides a single abstract method called getStudentType, which is implemented by its children classes, undergraduate student and graduate student. And finally, we have a tutor class that implements the learner interface. The functionality of the learner interface is not coded directly into the tutor class, but is delegated to a learner field within the tutor class. This is the concept of composition. And the same idea applies for the staff interface. The tutor class implements it and delegates the functionality to a staff field, which also implements the staff interface. And that's how we kind of simulated multiple inheritance for the tutor class. So we can make sure that this works. If I go back to our main class and I'm going to comment out everything that we've had so far. And I'm going to create a tutor. That is an undergraduate student, let's say, with an ID of 1. And we are going to create a new lecturer. In this case, the lecturer will have the same entity ID as the undergraduate student because they're basically the same entity. And I swapped the constructor arguments, so I'm going to turn them around and we're going to have a graduate tutor. And now we can make sure that these tutors can both enroll in courses and upload lecture content. So we're going to enroll in course 1 and upload lecture content to course 2 with some title and content. And we can do the same for the graduate tutor. And if we run this, we should see that our tutors can both enroll and upload lecture content. And here the IDs are a bit messed up because I swapped them around, so I'm going to just get rid of these increment operators and put them in the correct place and rerun the entire method. So we can see that the first student, who is an undergraduate student with an ID of 1, enrolled in course 1. And this student is also the first lecturer because we incremented the ID later. And they uploaded content to course 2 with a title of title 1. And then the graduate student, who has an ID of 2, enrolled in course 2 and uploaded content to course 3 with a title of title 2. Thank you for watching. In part 2 of this video, we'll take a look at how Kotlin simplifies working with delegation and composition over inheritance.